Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Kill Report Podcast, episode 273. My name is Benjamin Yoder. I'm here today to talk to you about video games. I got a really diverse show this week. We got Doujin games, a puzzle game. I've been playing a lot of little things because I've been working on the Xenoblade video. I'll give you a little update on the Xenoblade video here in a second, but hey, don't expect it this week probably. We're talking about Chibi-Robo, a couple new RPGs. Or I guess they're Kickstarters, so are they new RPGs? They're new RPG ideas. And then also, we're going to talk about some Dead or Alive, because that is the world I live in right now. I don't know, I've been thinking about Dead or Alive a lot recently. I'm thinking it's time to finally play Dead or Alive 4. Like, that feels like a good thing to do right now. I'm not going to do it, but that feels like a good thing to do at least. I have too many of these tiny other things that's going on, which we'll get into right now. So I've been playing more Farland story again. Again, nothing really new there, just kind of your typical strategy RPG kind of thing for the PCFX. 2.5 hours for each mission, it feels like. And despite having a partial fan translation, it actually is kind of, it's not hard to get into, but there are a lot of things that will trip you up because you are not understanding what characters are saying and things like that, because they only translate like the user interface for mechanics and things like that, not like the character dialogue. So anyways, so I played a little bit of that, nothing new there. I'm just slowly pushing my way through. I want to at least get through like maybe 2 or 3 missions a week, but even that I'm having a hard time hitting. But one thing I did do this week is, I don't know what possessed me, but I think I was just like not feeling particularly good one morning. I feel like I had two days this week. I just woke up and I was like, bleh. But I played some Doujin games. I just like popped open the folder, like, what's going on in here? I mean, these Doujin games I have are all old ones from Comiket 97. So some of these I probably looked at some point. Some of them I remember, some of them I don't really remember. But I've been wanting to finish more Doujin games recently. So when I'm playing one, I'm not just popping it in for 5 seconds and then just kind of checking it out. Or at least that's what I'm trying not to do. I'm really trying to invest some time into them. So one of those games was Clocklock. And actually, if you watched the stream this week, hey, by the way, we didn't do a Naval Tale stream this week. I broke my VGA box. It's a long story. I think I bought a replacement cable. I don't know if that's going to fix my issue, but we'll be playing Naval Tale this next week. We'll just be using S-video cables. But anyways, but I ended up playing Clocklock on stream as well. But this is a game that is a 2D platformer. I'm trying to remember if the girl is like a maid or something like that off the top of my head. I can't remember. But basically she like throw these knives, and there's like 3 knives, and those knives like kind of recharge. And I think somebody in the chat mentioned, I think there's like a Toho game that's like similar to this. But basically as you go and you platform around, you can also like pause time and things like that. So you can kind of go around platform, and then pausing time will let you either attack enemies or freeze platforms, or it will like freeze the wind blowing and things like that as well. So this game, or quote game, is really the trial. I had the Comiket 97 version of the trial. And that is just like 1 or 2 stages plus a boss fight. So I played through that whole thing, and it was pretty neat, pretty solid little platformer kind of thing. I will say that like obstacle wise, there was not anything really going on. A lot of the enemies just kind of like sat there and just like hanged out. However, in doing some research, this game is actually put out by Kyoto University Microcomputer Club. So this is like a university game. And they have a website, as well as a booth page as well. So I'll link those in the description, if you're interested. But on the website, they actually have a trial for this game. And it's an updated version of it. So they have new graphics and things like that. But more importantly, the enemy AI and behavior is actually, pretty different. So I haven't finished the updated version, and I probably should go check the boss fight, because the final boss in the Comiket 97 version trial was pretty whatever. But I'll be curious to see, given how all the other enemies have been updated, like how that actually functions in the updated version of the game. But I thought it was pretty fun, just like a cute little platformer. And I feel like it's one of those things where like a lot of times Doujin games, there's not a lot to say about them. They're just kind of, there, it exists, and you're kind of like, hey, cool, somebody like threw this together for school, and like it's a surprisingly pretty playable thing. I don't know if so Comiket 97 was end of 2019, 2020. So now it's 2022. So like, I don't know if this is something people were putting together their freshman year, or if it's like a group project or what. but I'd be curious, like, who worked on that game, if they're still around. And I don't remember when the trials dated. I feel like the date was like sometime in 2020, so maybe they've finally dropped it, but they have like a whole website for it and everything. So I don't know if there's plans to finish Clocklock, or if they have finished it and they sold it on CDs at Comic-Con or something. I went through their like blog page and didn't see anything like that. And then it seems like their blog was kind of being updated pretty spottily at times. So I don't really know, but it was just like a cute, fun little thing. You know, not a lot going on in it. There's just some neat things you can do with platforming. I like that you can throw knives, freeze time, and then hit yourself in the back of the head with a knife. That's kind of a fun, cute little thing. But anyways, I just thought I would highlight it, and I think it's especially worth mentioning because you can actually go and download it. Another Doujin game I played is Unityfire, and this one we actually played on stream a long time ago. If you go back to like those Comic-Con 97 streams I did, I probably played it in there, I would assume. And I seem to recall when we played it there, I could not really figure out what we were doing, mainly because of the controls. And when I booted this game up again, I was like, oh yeah, I don't really know what's happening. But this is a third-person shooter featuring Unitychan, but like very chibi little bean people kind of thing. So they're all very small. And it's basically an arena fighter. As far as I can tell, it only has like, or arena shooter. And as far as I can tell, there's only one stage. I don't know for sure, but there's like different missions you can do on each stage, I think. As far as I can tell from what I've played, all the missions are the same, which is just basically either survive or shoot the other people, and then win the encounter kind of thing. But what's kind of bizarre about this game is it maybe controls a little more similar to like a Mega Man Legends, maybe. I don't know 100% sure if this is true off the top of my head, but you know, it's not your traditional third-person shooter. I can at least say that. Because it uses the left analog stick to rotate your character and run forward, and then you use the triggers to turn your camera left and right, and it's a very, very slow left and right. And I don't think there's sensitivity settings, so it seems like either I'm missing something or that the actual controls are just very, very slow moving. And then, so, you know, if you're playing, I think there is like a multiplayer mode you can do in the game, but, you know, I think you need like an IP address and stuff. So like I would have to really go out of my way to set something up, but like all the bots basically just like run in circles and you basically just try to shoot them. They don't really try to shoot you much, although they definitely can. But, you know, for the most part, the bigger problem you have is like if you run out of time when you need to beat them kind of thing. So, yeah, it's just kind of a cute little shooter. And, basically the core concept of it, outside of just shooting enemies, is you basically go and collect these like upgrade orbs, and I can't tell what the first two upgrades do. I assume they're making your gun better, but the third one like has explosions basically, and so for a while you have explosive shots, and they're really large burst radius, and given how like quickly the enemies run around and how slow your aiming is, it's actually very, very useful. So I would not say it's like a particularly good game, at least with how the controls are that I have it at the moment. But I was able to kind of appreciate it a little more. I think the big thing that I need to probably go back is just like try to mess with the controls a bit more. Using it on keyboard, I could not figure out how to turn at all, but on a controller, I was able to turn that way. So that was a fun little thing to mess around with, but it is definitely very simple and very straightforward. But thankfully it does have bots, even if they are just like, it's kind of funny to watch, and they kind of feel like little like mice running around in circles. So they just like will run around in circles and you shoot them and they just run off or something like that. So, but they move so much more faster than you. So again, I don't know, maybe I'm just missing something in the gameplay compartment of it, which I would not be surprised. You know, a lot of these games don't really have instructions, or they have like README files, things like that. So I don't know if I looked at the README file for Unityfire, but the last Doujin game I played was actually one I really, really enjoyed, and that is Over the Dune, and this is also from the Kyoto University Microcomputer Club. However, when I went to their website, I could not find anything about it, really, outside of the fact that it was at Comic-Con 97, which is the one I went to. But yeah, it's like a rhythm RPG, and essentially you have a character that's like on the left side of the screen, and it's actually pretty complicated for what it is. So, or you know, for essentially being a prototype. So essentially you have a series of cards in the top left corner, and those cards represent the number of actions you can do. So if you go to attack, you basically can attack by default 3 times, essentially. And when you attack, it's very kind of Paper Mario-ish. You gotta like time out the attack hits where it hits like a little, like within a little field or whatever. That's like the proper timing, right? And then depending on how many hits you do, you get different bonus points. So if you do a 3-hit combo, you get like an extra damage stack on top. So they kind of encourage you to use these in different sets of numbers. However, you can only go up to 5. So essentially, it's either a 3-hit combo or a 5-hit combo to do the most damage, because they have combo multipliers on top of those. Anything in between the 1, 2, and 4, those don't have any combo modifiers. They just have like a sequential modifier for you doing more hits, essentially. But and so yeah, and how you get these cards is essentially you have defense phases where you have to basically play a little mini game on the bottom of the screen, and each enemy has their own little pattern they attack you with. You could kind of maybe think of it a little bit like an Undertale, but it's a very much more straightforward rhythm game kind of thing. And when you block a hit, either you do a block, which just reduces the damage you take, or you do a perfect guard, which is, it's not called perfect guard, it's called perfect. But when you when you get a perfect, that actually gives you a card in your hand. So you have the 3 by default, and then if you get 2 perfects within a defense phase, you can do up to 5 actions with that. You're kind of like comboing and countering and stuff like that. But then there's a couple other elements on top of this. One is that the bar you have at the bottom is, at least by default early on, is very thin to actually like time it into. So if you go into a defense stance, you actually get a larger bar down there. So you can basically increase the leniency of your timing on those actions. In my eyes, it's kind of somewhat required to some degree to do it properly. So what you can do instead of attack, or maybe you only want to use a partial of your cards for attacking, is you can basically either expel all of your cards or a part of your cards into a defense modifier. I think it's called dexterity in the game, actually. So you like funnel it off to like a temporary dexterity buff. And that gives you a larger time frame of which you can, hit those perfects, and you get more cards going forward. So obviously, if you have 4 cards or something like that, so you can't do like the 5 combo, but you can do a 3 combo. You might do like 3 combo and then discard your other card for a little bit of a buff on your timing window or something like that. So there's a little bit of strategy there with that. And then there's also another layer to this, which is the magic system. And so when you're defending attacks in the rhythm bar or whatever, there's actually like little symbols, and those symbols represent different types of magic. And for the majority of the demo, you only get 2 types of magic. So you basically choose between an attack magic or a heal magic, and then also you have to have 2 of them to cast, so you can actually mix them as well to get like it looks like an attack buff. I didn't like translate it or anything, but it looks like probably you get some kind of like attack, defense, or general stat buff or something like that. So you get, if you combine the 2 different spells, you get like a stat buff, or if you get 2 of the same spell, like the attack spell, you can do like a fireball attack or something, and then if you get 2 of the healing spell, then you can just heal yourself kind of thing. However, what's kind of interesting is that you can only hold 2 at once, and the button you press to absorb that magic as it comes to you is actually different from the typical beat button. So basically what happens is you'll be defending, these beats, and these different magic elements will come in, and then when you hit the different magic element, you'll absorb them. But if you have 2 magic elements, you can no longer absorb any. So if you hit the absorb button, it won't block the attack, and you'll take the damage. So it's like, keep in mind how many spells are within your mana pool as well. And so like all these things kind of combined to just having like an interesting level of depth to it. Again, this is just like a prototype somebody did, but it like only has 1 song as well, but it's like really well produced. The presentation is nice. It is all like, sprite art kind of thing, and the characters are just like little stick figures or whatever. Not really stick figures, but like shadow. You kind of like the characters on like restroom signs that have like the circle heads and the blob bodies. It's kind of like that is what they look like. The main girl though has like a complete detailed sprite and everything, and the background is like a I guess you call, like, what is it called, a music visualizer, where it like bounces back and forth with like these little lines as the music plays out. And the song's like a 5-minute song. Most encounters will end before you get to the end of the song. It does eventually stop and just like has a hard restart. They don't loop it, but most encounters won't last you that long. The only reason I heard that was because I left it on the title screen, or on the combat screen, intentionally, just to hear the whole song kind of thing. But yeah, so it's just like this really, really interesting thing. Oh, and then on top of that, I guess there's still more layers to this. So when you finish a encounter where you fight these enemies, you also get to put buffs into your stats. So you get strength stats, so your attacks do more damage. You get a dex stat, which increases your timing, so you can permanently increase the timing that you have. And then you also have a vitality, which increases the amount of health you have. And then you also have a psychic. I don't know what the psychic one does. It might be like a magic defense or just magic potency. I'm not quite sure on that, honestly. And then so throughout the matches, you get like 10 points after each one. You can dump some points in there. And then you do have like a heal as well, like a emergency heal. But for each run, you only have 3 of those heal cards. So, you ideally don't want to use them until, you absolutely need to. And thankfully, the game's very lenient on if you die, it basically starts you right back over from the start of that fight you were on. I was about to say song, but really it's all the same song. So yeah, so I just did some digging around for this game, trying to figure out if I can find, the person who did it or whatever. I could not find anything else about it. Couldn't find a download link or anything like that either, which is a shame because it's really, really cool. I would love to see like what they could have done with the idea going further. I think I just like the idea of just rhythm games that have gameplay mechanics to them. I forget who it is. BioPhoenix. BioPhoenix was on stream this week and was like, hey, we played the Miku rhythm games or whatever. And just like, I think for me, I need like more than just like start up the game and then pick a song and then get a score kind of thing. Like I like to have a rhythm game to feel like more of a complete experience. And so like mixing it into RPG elements is definitely a way to get it like, to interest me. So I don't know, maybe this is based on another game that I don't know about, but I did really like it and it's really cool. And I will probably, I've been doing these clips for the podcast. I'll probably load up a YouTube clip of this later at some point and then put some gameplay footage in there so you guys can see what it looks like. Although I'm not sure when that would come out. But it is something that I really enjoyed, and it is maybe one of the best like Doujin prototype games I've ever played. I put like an hour and a half into it, and I really enjoyed it. So, if I figure out more about it, I'll let you know. I did look. Hey, man. Machine translate conversations with people online is typically like a bad idea. There's actually this really funny situation where like I made that Buddy Mission Bond video, right? And then somebody machine translated, so I machine translated the game when I was playing that. And then somebody in the Japanese community machine translated my video about Buddy Mission Bond. And then I machine translated their comment about it, then responded back in machine translation. And they commented back. Like, it's just the whole thing. And it's like, this is a nightmare. Like, this is like, thankfully, like, we're not talking about anything important, right? So it doesn't really matter, but it is just like a nightmare of like everything could go bad in this series of events. But anyway, so it is very dangerous to use machine translation online, especially communicating with people. You have to really keep certain things in mind. I probably am a little too ambitious with it at times. But I did leave a comment on the Twitter for the university on the post they made about that game, like about not the game, but the collection that game was featured in, and just was like, hey, did anything come out of this beyond that? So I don't expect to get a response. Admittedly, I have no idea. I think I posted it last night. So, Japan time, it probably would have been late in Friday. So maybe next week I'll hear something, or by the time you hear this, it'll be probably the start. I'm going to take a strong guess. I will hear nothing back because it is a school university club Twitter. But I am curious if it went on and if they worked on it any further. But yeah, I cannot find anyone named Asragi as their username or whatever. So that is unfortunate, but it's an awesome game. And I'm very hesitant to distribute any Doujin stuff just because it's kind of not my place to do so, I feel like. So I'm sorry, but if for some reason I have any change of mind on that, I'll definitely let you guys know. So yes. Speaking of rhythm stuff, Sumikko Gurashi Minna Day Rhythm Party. This isn't supposed to be in here, but we're going to talk about this, I guess. This is a news story. We're in the what I'm playing section, but I threw it right here, I guess, because it's a rhythm game. This is a little weird, like, egg-shaped, bean-shaped animals, I guess, kind of thing. It's really cute. It's coming to the Switch. It kind of feels like a 4-player Rhythm Heaven game, and it has a really cute aesthetic to it. So, I don't know. I feel like there might have been something like this before, but I might just be mixing it up with something else. I have not engaged with that Sumikko Gurashi Minna de Rhythm Party. I haven't really interacted with that series at all in the past, so I could be mixing it up with something else. Maybe I'm thinking like the Tamagotchi Wii game. That's like a motion controlled rhythm game as well, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But anyways, it looks cute, it looks kind of fun. I don't think I'll ever play it, but if I ever see it like super cheap or something like that, I might consider picking it up. I say that, but I have 30 billion rhythm games in my home. Look, I gotta do another pickups video because I ordered stuff from Vink and it got here. I'm now the proud owner of what's it called, Maestro, Magic Maestro, or something like that. PS2 rhythm game. I picked up the Japanese version of the games. I forgot what it's called. Majestic Maestro, something like that. I don't know. We'll do a pickup video on that eventually. So you guys can see what that is. But, I really don't need to be buying more rhythm games. I have so many, and I do not play the majority of them, except for Over the Dune. So there was that. Surprise news story break there. And then I also played Psychic Force Puzzle Taisen. So this is the fxBobble Puzzle Bobble, I guess is the right phrase for it in the US, but it's the game where you basically have the little orbs that you throw up at the top of the screen, and then you break, like, you connect 3 of them, and then you can like break off certain sections if depending on how the orbs are laid out by color. As far as I'm aware, this is pretty much just like a straight rip of the fxBobble formula with nothing special going on, no special powers. But it's like in the versus format thing. So you basically have characters from this fighting game series called Psychic Force, which I have not played. You just go through the story modes and things like that. I am not good at fxBobble. I don't have anything to say because like all I do is like I just throw the orbs at the top of the screen, not really sure what to do. Like I try to match colors, right? And I know there's like strategy in terms of like, having, essentially a line of colors that like disconnects chunks of the board away from the rest of it, so you can basically drop a ton at once. So I think the idea is that you want to just build up a bunch of garbage essentially, and then basically just have one line of color that you can just like break, and then it falls, and then that's the end of that. But I have not figured out the best way to do that, honestly. Personally, I think to me, the board feels too small. I'm sure it's fine, but to me, I'm like, it feels so cramped and so tiny in here that I feel like I have a really hard time doing anything. But, I could probably look up a video and just get some like beginner tips on it. But, just cute aesthetics, little voice acting things. Also, if you do the puzzle mode, you get like little CG graphics things, so you can get a bunch of art. I think it's like 9 pieces of art for each character, 1 for each puzzle or something like that, maybe. So, yeah, it's pretty cute. There also was like a fxBobble 4-player game that got, I don't know if it was announced or if this is just an update on it, but I think we may have talked about this briefly, but it's actually pretty neat. It's again, another news story. I don't know what I was doing with these notes this week. Back to the news story. I think I just like combining topics together and did not think about where they're actually going. But yeah, I was actually looking at a fxBobble game this week that's not coming out until like 2023 on the Switch, but it's a 4-player fxBobble game, and it's one of those like, if you ever seen some of those multiplayer or puzzle games, sometimes they'll like put everybody on the same board essentially. So this is like that, where like the whole board across is basically all the playing fields for all 4 players. However, the fields are divided by these crates or whatever, and then it seems like you can basically break the crates off to essentially open up the ability to shoot into the other players' fields and things like that. So I thought it looked pretty cute and fun, but like given I don't play multiplayer stuff with people that often, especially something like that, and I don't know if it has online either, I doubt I'll end up playing something like that. But I'm enjoying Psychic Force Puzzle Taisen. I think I just need to go and do some more research before I play too much more, because otherwise I more or less just throwing stuff at the top of the screen and just like hoping it works out for the most part. So yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of what I've been playing this week. So a lot of little tiny things everywhere, but and then also going back, I've been playing through Xenosaga a little bit, not a lot, but like loading up old save files just to kind of go back and get a feel for certain parts of those games, and also get some footage for them, just to kind of reinforce my opinion on those games in terms of putting stuff in for the Xenoblade videos, and then also getting that footage. Warning, if you're gonna make Xenosaga content or need Xenosaga videos, Xenosaga Episode 1 clear files do not load. Like, it's there. I don't know if you could, like, transfer it over to Xenosaga Episode 2 or what, but, like, as far as I can tell, that save file is complete dead weight once you beat the game. So, if you want to make sure you can go back and do other stuff in Xenosaga, Episode 1 at least, make sure you save a separate save file before you finish the game, because otherwise you can't do anything. So I just got some tutorial footage from that game, which kind of sucks. I don't like doing that. I like showing stuff later in the game typically, but you know, most of what I need to say about Xenosaga Episode 2 or Episode 1 is in the Episode 2 battle system as well, so I don't think it'll be a huge deal, but I'll try to slip in some Episode 1 footage in there for good measure. I did look in, I did confirm, I went through all my GameCube memory cards. I did confirm I do not have any Baten Kaito save data. If you don't know, long time ago, I have a GameCube memory card that was like one of the white ones that had like, you know, 1,000 something blocks or whatever. And I don't know how true this was, but at the time, this is the theory, is that the original run of Wii's that had GameCube support, the memory card slots when the system was vertically standing did not have proper ventilation. So if you had a memory card just sitting in the Wii like 24/7 as you used it, it would end up in situations that the memory card would heat up a lot. And then so like, again, I don't know how true this is, but at the time, this is what I understood in doing research about it. And then that caused the memory card to essentially stop storing and loading save data properly. I think I tried to get it to work and try to pull files off, but it just kept corrupting them, and I'm guessing Baten Kaitos was one of those files that I tried, because I can still load the card up and I can see the data there. And what I was thinking is like, maybe I should try to copy it off using an SD card reader and see if like I can maybe push it over to another memory card and see if it survives that way instead. So I might give that a shot. Although I want to make sure whatever card I'm pushing it to is basically blank, because I don't want to risk, you know, doing any issue damage or whatever like that. So anyway, so part of me is like, hey, I need to either start through Baten Kaitos, but I really would like later footage from Baten Kaitos. So I know there's like GameFAQs save files that people uploaded a long time ago. So I've been thinking about seeing if maybe I could try to see if I can load those onto my memory cards using the SD Media launcher that I have. Because then I could just, you know, run around and do whatever I need kind of thing. And that would be good. So I will probably try that at the very least. And then if that fails, I'll just play the beginning of the game. And then if I need more footage that's more complicated, I might just have to go grab somebody else's footage, which I really don't like doing. I like to keep everything my own footage whenever possible. It just makes my life easier, to be honest. I really don't like the whole, like, okay, let me source all this footage from somebody and then... You know, I in the past have asked people to like, can I use your footage and stuff like that, or use your screenshots? And most of the time you just do not get a response. And so like, obviously you could say that is a good reason that you should not use them. But sometimes you're just trying to make a video. So I don't know if that's a good thing. Like I said, I try to like, but if I like what I've been doing in the last like 4 or 5 years is focus on my footage, only use other people's footage when it's absolutely necessary for me to use it. I need to get the scene in Xenosaga where Jesus Christ is standing there, so I'm not going to do that. Unless, I need to double check. I don't think there's an event viewer in Xenosaga Episode 3. If there is, I can grab that on my own. But otherwise, I will just be grabbing a clip off YouTube and then sourcing them back. So that is, it seems like most people are generally fine with that these days. Some people I know can be pretty stingy about it, which I can kind of understand. There's actually a conversation this week on Twitter about like, there's like a Sailor Moon cartoon pilot or something like that. It's like some old pilot that was done for a Western version of Sailor Moon. I don't know. I did not look into like the modern understanding of what this thing is. I just know I knew this thing existed a long time ago, and apparently, like I guess the full episode probably got found. I think some lady got it from like the Library of Congress or something, and then uploaded it. But then they like watermarked it. So it was like, okay, like, I don't know, like it kind of feel how you feel about watermarking. I know some people were very upset that they watermarked it. I think like ultimately I like, as long as somebody has shared it, that's the big thing. Right. But at the same time, you know, as much as I think you probably shouldn't watermark that stuff, I do think, I can understand the logic behind wanting to watermark it. You know, you put all this effort into setting up and getting this thing. So anyways, that's a long way of me saying I totally understand why some people are like, hey, don't touch my screenshots. I played through this game and I did this, or don't touch my footage and things like that. But I feel like it's a smaller and smaller audience of people who care about that stuff, especially as like, I think more and more people are like, hey, we probably should just have like this stuff available because it's important to have this stuff just available whenever possible. So, hey, guess what? It's Patreon time. Thank you again so much to all the Patreon people who have subscribed. Last week, you got a Nier Automata video. Wow. A review. I don't know if that video was good. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of me being very critical of myself, I feel like, I will say. So at the $5 bonus video level, you can get that video. I think not this week, but I think next week there's the Buddy Mission Bond Cups unboxing videos. If you want to see me unbox some Buddy Mission Bond Cups, there you go. I believe that's coming up next week. But anyways, so people who are contributing to the Patreon, thank you again. That includes Henry Dagger, Jillian, Paul Daniel, and Discreet. So anyways, again, thank you guys so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it. And as usual, we have ourselves a Patreon question here. If you want to ask a Patreon question, you can do so on Mondays at 3 p.m. Well, like this is when the post goes up. There's a post that goes up on the Patreon, and you can just drop your question in the comment there if you want it sourced to you, or you can message me if you want it to be anonymous. Yeah, you can ask a question there, but the post goes up Monday at 3 p.m. and then you can fill it out whenever you want throughout the week. You don't have to worry about it. As long as it's like before Friday, that's kind of the big thing. So, and Jillian asked a question per usual. We got ourselves a question. I don't know why I said question twice. Any memorable video game ads you want to talk about? Video, print, stunts, events, etc. Oh man, when I think of video game ads, I guess trailers might be like involved in video game ads too. It's pretty broad range, right? Just the press process of video games. As for like actual commercials though, I think this is probably true for a lot of people, but Super Smash Brothers for the 64 is like one of the first ones that I feel like I really took notice of. It was like, what? Mario kicked Yoshi? That's crazy kind of thing. You know, family friendly image for what's it called? You know, ignoring the fact that Mario like punched Yoshi in the head in the Super Nintendo version of the game, right? Or in Super Nintendo Super Mario World. But yeah, that was like one of the things that stood out to me. That's the one that's like it's me and you and me song, right? So that one always like really stood out in my head. I remember like a lot of commercials being uploaded to like, I think it's called like retrotvcommercials.com. I have no idea if that link is valid anymore. Don't go mess with it. There's a ton of old video game commercials on there, but this is like pre-YouTube, I'm pretty sure. And I really got obsessed with the Mario series commercials in Japan around like 2004 and 2005, I think. So around that era. And this campaign was called Hot Mario Brothers. Initially, I think it was just Hot Mario. And then like he's in a Mario Kart Double Dash commercial. And it is a very nice looking Japanese actor man playing Mario. But then they had Hot Mario Bros, which was like more of like just kind of, I don't know. I mean, they're definitely like fine. They looked fine, but they didn't like look as like a pretty boy kind of thing as the other one did. But yeah, there's a bunch of commercials featuring Mario and Luigi. And I don't know why, but I just really liked them at the time. I was like, this is like a really cool thing. Like these people dressed as Mario and Luigi going around playing basketball and they're like babies in the Mario and Luigi's, what's the DS game? The Mario and Luigi RPG DS game? I forget what it's called. Brothers in Time or something like that. Partners in Time? That sounds right. Anyway, so I really like that one. But my favorite one out of all was from Mario Party 7. And like, Mario Party 7 US commercials, they're fine. It's like Mario on a cruise ship or whatever. It was very much within the Nintendo of America style humor. Or like Bowser, I think, gets like shaving cream on his face. Maybe that's the Slumber Party commercials, whatever. I think it was the cruise ship for Mario Party 7, though, if I recall correctly. I could be misremembering. Anyways, not important. Mario Party Japanese commercials, though, were Hot Mario Brothers. And one of them is like this family on a couch just like playing Mario Party all together. It's Mario Party 7 is the one that had 8-player support, so each person grabbed one side of the controller. So it's like this whole family on there, and it's like this really slow, like happy music, and everyone's like, oh, like everything's moving in slow motion, and they're all like laughing and playing and stuff like that. And then just like it cuts into like Mario and Luigi like crying while like looking at this like family playing, and then it like cuts out further away, and it's like them hiding under their couch like sitting there, and then the family notices him and like steps back and jumps back. So anyways, it's just like a goofy commercial, and that commercial sold me on Mario Party 7 for some reason. So I got myself a copy of Mario Party 7. I had kind of not played Mario Party for a long time. I played Mario Party 1, or I have Mario Party 1. Didn't pick up 2 or 3, but I did rent those. And then I think I rented 4. There's like a very brief time that I rented GameCube games. Pretty much once Final Fantasy 11 came out, I forgoed renting games for the monthly subscription. Not exactly the financial benefit on my part there, because renting games is significantly more expensive than like renting a game every weekend was a lot more expensive than subscription to Final Fantasy 11. But it did slow down a lot of the games I played. So Mario Party was one of the casualties. I did not pick up one until about Mario Party 7. I played a lot of Mario Party 7. I really, really enjoyed it. There's also a really good Xbox 360 Christmas commercial as well. I'll link all of these if I can find them. I'm pretty sure I can find most of them. I'll link all of these though. But anyways, there's an Xbox 360 commercial in Japan for Christmas that was like Joy to the World. And it's just like a few different like commercials or games to this version of Joy, the cover of Joy to the World. And I don't know, I just like the commercial. I think it's cut really well. I think there's like something to be said, and maybe this is like something that's really relevant in my videos maybe. Like I think there's like good footage to put with good songs, and like I think there's a way you can match those things up in really interesting ways that's fun. And I feel like they're very different commercials based off like, or I feel like commercials can be very successful based off like how they're edited sometimes. And that Xbox 360 one I think is one of the ones I really enjoyed because it is just kind of whatever. Like, I don't know, it's like a bunch of just like, it's like Prince of Persia, I think Tales of Vesperia, Lost Odyssey, and then Master Chief's in the commercial too as well. So, but it's just like video game clips with Joy to the World. And then I think it's like I think they put like a little Christmas hat on the Xbox 360 at the very end, which is kind of cute. So, with like, I don't know if it's because I'm using like ad blocker. Maybe do I use ad blocker right now? I can't remember, honestly. Sometimes I feel like I am using ad blocker, but sometimes I feel like I'm not. I feel like at some point, depending on how annoying the website is that I'm on, like YouTube or Twitch, I will go and update my ad blocker to make sure it works. I feel like most game commercials, I don't really pay that much attention to anymore. And I feel like most of the time it's like, Epic kind of commercials kind of thing. Not the company Epic, but like, I'm like in my head, I can hear the beginning of like every video game commercials that I can remember. It's like kind of thing, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the last time I saw like a really good video game commercial. Trailers, no problem. There's trailers online, but just like a commercial, I feel like most of the games, probably just the types of games getting advertised these days. Like it's stuff that's more mainstream. It's going to be more like, the Battlefield. Not that Battlefield is relevant these days, really, but that type of trailer, I feel like is what's going to get advertised to the mass market more likely. So I talked a lot about commercials, though. Any videos, prints, stunts, or events? I can't think of anything like too crazy there. There's the Touching is Good campaign for DS where you got like the mannequin hand. I don't know if that's an ad per se. It's more like a viral web thing, or like basically they'd send you a mannequin hand and you could take a picture of it with your DS or something and then send that in. There was I'm trying to remember, it was like I was not aware of this till like years and years later. It's like Perrin Kaplan with Nintendo. She told a story about a Pokemon event that they did at some point. I think it's for Red Blue or maybe Silver Gold, really early Pokemon game. And I think it was like something where they like filled up a bunch of hot air balloons. I don't know what was in the balloons or whatever, but like whatever was supposed to happen was I think they were supposed to have these balloons go, and then they were supposed to like either pop or drop stuff down or something like that, and it did not work or something like, or maybe like it didn't like work as they expected. It ended up with like a bunch of just like garbage everywhere kind of thing. And so like it was just like some weird nightmare event. I wish I could remember the actual story of that. But I'm sure if you go, I mean, this is probably a very old Nintendo voice chat podcast, I think is what that would have been. This would be very old at this point. Probably like 2012 or something like that. That's when she was on there. But if you can look at that, I'd have to go back and like listen to it to really remember the details. So I don't know. Video game ads and stuff are like kind of neat. I feel a little bad, like, just highlighting these particular ones, because I feel like this is, like, I feel like whenever I just have something like this particular era of commercials, I liked these things, like, I don't know. I just can't think of too much stuff like modern day stuff that really jumps out at me. But I also don't like follow advertising cycles for games very much anymore, right? So it probably is just me getting old and not having enough time to pay attention to that stuff so much. Like, I did not look at Xenoblade Chronicles 3 stuff like at all. Once I saw a gameplay, I was like, cool. I think this game is going to be interesting. I was wrong. Well, it's not that I was wrong. I'll get in the fine details of that in my Xenoblade Chronicles video. But anyways, thank you again, Patreon people. Again, you can ask a Patreon question 3 p.m. Monday. The post goes up on the Patreon if you'd like. If you want to do it anonymously, feel free to message me instead the question. Otherwise, we will probably get another Jillian question. I think there's like 10 or so of those left that she gave me backlog-wise. So, and we also have level skip. We can go back to like what video game do you never want your girlfriend to know that you played? Those questions are kind of fun because they're very dumb. But I think Jillian's questions give us better discussion at the very least. So, video game news time. Even though we already kind of put news in here a little bit. Kenichi Nishi, I believe he's the director on Chibi-Robo series or whatever. He had a little series where he talked to a website called Time Extension. I have never heard of Time Extension before. This is new to me. But he basically was talking about some stuff, and one of those things was the Chibi-Robo series. And basically he said that he does not think the Chibi-Robo series will come back. He's not at Skip. He's not necessarily the authority. I think he more or less, whether he knows or what's going on with Skip or not, he either played dumb or legit does not know. So he did not mention much about it. I do need to go back and dig around a little bit and just see if there's been any updates otherwise. But yeah, basically it sounds like he's saying that Chibi-Robo probably not happening. I know Chibi-Robo is a complicated licensing situation. I believe Skip, Bandai, and Nintendo own some stake in Chibi-Robo. So I don't know if any one company on their own could be like, Chibi-Robo time, babies. And Nintendo is pretty clear when they're wrapping up Ziplash. They're like, this is kind of the last chance for Chibi-Robo to make something work. Personally, I feel like Nintendo gave every chance to Chibi-Robo to succeed in a lot of ways. I do not think making Park Patrol non-exclusive to Walmart would have helped it that much, to be honest with you. Personally, that's how I feel. I know other people feel differently, but it's all water under the boat at this point. But yeah, I feel like Nintendo, at the very least, they gave us a lot of Chibi-Robo games. So I'm glad that series lived the life it lived. It probably overstayed its welcome in some ways, but I think everybody's very happy with the series overall. So if we never get another Chibi-Robo game, I think I can live with that at the very least. But I know I'm somebody who does not play games particularly quickly, so I will probably have Skip games that I'll be able to play sometime here in the next 10 years. I'm probably going to be good for a while on Skip games, so I'm not desperate for it. Speaking of games that I'm good for a while, because I haven't played any of the games in the series otherwise, or at least Chibi-Robo I've played a few, but not all of them. Wild Arms and Shadowheart. Very interesting situation. I have never heard of a double Kickstarter before. I don't really know what a double Kickstarter is. It seems like maybe they have a joint campaign with how much money they're trying to raise. I think it's $750,000 or something like that. But Wild Arms and Shadowhearts have spiritual successors coming along, or at least the teams are making games in that series. I don't know enough about Shadowhearts to really say if it's a full spiritual successor. But anyways, but yeah, these are just some people from the Wild Arms series, which typically would be developed by Mediavision. Although Mediavision is still around as a company, and I still desperately want to know what they're doing. But we are not at this point in my lifetime where we know what Mediavision's doing. So I still wonder every day. No, not every day, but I do think about Mediavision probably more than I think most people, because I'm just like, what the heck are they doing? Valkyria Chronicles 4 was 2018. What's going on? You ported a game to PS4, you're running a mobile game? You have 300 employees though. So I'm very curious what they're doing. Anyways, Wild Arms Successor, God, do I have the name here? Arm Fantasia, and then Penny Blood would be for the Shadow Hearts successor. But, I don't know enough about the Wild Arms series to, like, look at it and be like, yeah, this is doing, what I need this to be. I also don't know enough about the Shadow Hearts series, but I do know the Shadow Hearts series has, like, a kind of a cult following. But they looked very good visually at the very least. $750,000 seems pretty low, so I would assume they are getting some other support otherwise. But visually, they definitely looked very nice and very clean. I don't think they've said anything about specific platforms, but I think they said they wanted to bring it to, quote, all modern platforms. I shouldn't quote because I don't know if that's quote, but I think it was like all modern platforms is what they said they would like to bring it to. That's not them saying they're going to. I think it probably depends on how much money they end up raising. So given these are Kickstarters, it doesn't sound like they're guarantees to go through. Let me see if I can check to see what the current, if they have accepting money right now. Okay, they have not launched their Kickstarter yet, so they have a notification for launch for coming soon. But anyways, it is interesting to see those coming. Hopefully they work out. I think there are a lot of fans of those series who would love to see those video games, even if they don't hold their original names. I don't know who owns Shadow Hearts. I think... Does Sony own Wild Arms? Sony might own Wild Arms. Although there was the situation where, like, they did a Wild Arms mobile game. I do not think that Wild Arms name is on there, though. Or that Sony's name is on there, though. But I think they've always published in Japan the Wild Arms series. So I know in the US it's a little more iffy. I think Xseed picked up the publishing rights towards the end of that lifespan. So anyways, very cool. They look very nice. You should definitely look at those. They're very clean looking games. I'm sure if there's a Switch version, they will not look nearly as clean, but at least they should. Oh, and they actually showed off for Arn Fantasia like 15 seconds of gameplay. I don't know if that's actual gameplay or like, mock gameplay, but that's out there too as well. Again, I'll link links in the description if you want to see those. Speaking of modern consoles, did you know that the PlayStation 5 is more expensive in most regions now, or rather coming soon. September 15th is when it's actually happening. But yeah, they're raising the price of the PlayStation 5 in a lot of regions. A lot of things kind of playing a role in this in terms of, inflation, as well as, I'm not sure how much it matters, but the US dollar is definitely strong right now, I think, but compared to most regions. So like importing stuff is always a lot cheaper. It makes me wonder if like one day we'll ever get back to like the region locking situation. I hope not. I think at this point it seems likely that is all in our past, but I think a lot of the reason, I could be wrong, but I believe a lot of the reason why region locking happened was to, prevent people from, basically getting discounts based off the differences in regions and costs. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think we've had a price rise for hardware ever. Could be wrong about that, but that's fascinating. Anyways, but I definitely but the actual amount that's getting raised up, I don't know enough about, a lot of these different currencies. But for Japan, I think it's like an additional like 5,000 yen or something like that. So typically normal times that'd be about $50, but I think in the modern day that's maybe closer to like $30 now that the price is going up. But again, this is for Canada, Europe, UK, Australia, Mexico, China, and Japan. I highly doubt I am the first time you're hearing this, but if for some reason you do hear this from me first, you can go look up any of those regions and the cost for those. Not going to read them all off here. Again, links are in the description. But so there's some discussion online about this a little bit. Like, hey, Microsoft's going to raise prices. If you didn't know, Oculus or Facebook Meta, or whatever their company's name now, I don't know what they're called anymore. The Quest 2, apparently they raised the price on that or are raising the price on that. So I think a lot of people were discussing, whether Xbox would raise the price. At least right now, Microsoft is saying they will not be raising the prices in other regions at the moment. Things could definitely change, but at least that is their line right now. Nintendo is also saying we're not raising prices, but Nintendo, this is like 6-year-old hardware for Nintendo now. So like I'm guessing they're making decent amounts of money off their hardware purchases. I think Nintendo traditionally has made money off their hardware. So anyways, it doesn't seem like anyone else will be raising prices. I saw some people blaming Jim Ryan on this. I don't know. I still am at the point where like I don't see a lot of reason to get a PlayStation 5 still for myself. I think maybe the end of next year will be a very different situation, probably. Obviously, the prices aren't raising in the US at the moment, so I'm not really affected personally, but I guess I just don't see like a lot of reason to get a PlayStation 5 right now anyway, still. I think most people are probably still good on PS4. Obviously you're sacrificing technical aspects of games, but and some people want that like 100% like best experience every time. I do kind of feel like, with how games have diversified though, like more powerful hardware is just significantly less important, because a lot of games just either are using like sprite art and stuff like that, so are like the overhead is significantly less. That's not to say they don't like tax the system in any way, but I think it's a lot easier to they're not as intense as like the latest AAA release or something like that. And then you also have a lot of just like janky games that come out that are budget using like Unreal Engine and like regular assets and things like that. I mean, not every game is that way, but I feel like this is like a wider scale of what video game graphics could look like. A lot of games don't feel like they're using the hardware to its fullest in a lot of ways. So I feel like, that the need for like, oh, I need the best looking experience just doesn't matter as much. I know like the, what was it called? The Final Fantasy Origins game. I believe that actually maybe looked significantly, I don't know if worse is the right word, but it looked like a downscaled piece. Like if you go on PC and downscale a version of a game, it kind of looked like that, where like everything is just like a little muddier than you'd expect. But, I'll be honest with you, I usually can't tell those kind of visual differences really unless you put them side by side, personally. That doesn't mean they don't matter. And honestly, when I'm capturing, that's when I really notice the most, because I'm like, hey, I want to get the best looking footage for most people. But when I'm playing a game by myself, like most of the time, at some point, 5 minutes in, I do not see the smudginess anymore. I think that is part of why I adapt so well to poor frame rates and to low resolution games. Like I didn't really notice any issue with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think, was a little worse, but like visually, I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 generally holds up very well. But like I go back and look at footage of that game, it does not necessarily look great like in a screenshot format at the very least. Makes making thumbnails for that game a nightmare, honestly. So yeah, but anyways, so rest in peace. But hopefully prices will come back down eventually sometime soon. Really weird era of hardware right now, just with how things have been just slowly trickling out and stuff like that. And we got a couple of smaller news stories here. One is that Dead or Alive, Venus Vacation, added a new character. They've been adding new characters. We do not cover every new character added to Dead or Alive Venus Vacation on this podcast. Unfortunately, I'm not the number one stop for Dead or Alive news. Venus Vacation news, sorry, specifically Venus Vacation. I do not know enough about Dead or Alive, but I know more about Venus Vacation than I probably should as somebody who doesn't know much about Dead or Alive. But I played it for I think a month or something like that, and it was fine. Like the presentation was the big thing. Is the thing I always come back to. Like the music in that game is great. But they introduced a new character called Shandy. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about Shandy, nothing in depth here. But I think a reason why I want to talk about Shandy a little bit is that I feel like she's probably one of the more distinct characters they've released recently. Probably the last one I feel that really stood out was the little Oni girl they added or whatever. I mean, little Oni girl or whatever. She's probably it's one of the situations she's probably 3,000 years old or something. Anyways, but they had an Oni they added, and outside of most body types in Dead or Alive are very similar. For Dead or Alive Venus Vacation, especially for the new cast, which definitely don't really feel like they have the effort put behind them as a traditional Dead or Alive new character. But I like Shandy because her demeanor was pretty different. She's like a bartender or whatever, but she's kind of somewhat apathetic. There are other characters that are apathetic in the game, don't get me wrong. But I don't know, just it's kind of a good general vibe. And I also liked how her hair is this darker hair color on top, and it fades off at the bottom. But I think I am still in this world where in my brain, when they introduce these characters to this video game, I'm they gotta eventually put them in a fighting game at some point, right? But at the same time, they've shoveled out so many generic looking ladies that are pretty much just there for the typical fan service. I mean, the fan service type game it is. I mean, that is what Venus Vacation is, right? There are things going on with Dead or Alive Extreme games, don't get me wrong, but that is the core incentive behind that game is that fan service part. And I think part of me is just they've got to make good on this at some point. They've got to make them all fighting game characters, but I know they absolutely will not. I think historically they have added new Dead or Alive characters in the Extreme games, and they have not added them in because of stuff like that. I think what was it? Who is it? Isn't there a girl in the PSP one that's exclusive to that? I don't remember. Maybe she's not. Oh, maybe she's that. There's like a character that was like a roulette character around that time with red hair. Maybe it was that late. It was like a crossover character or something. I don't know. Anyways, I just thought Shandy looked neat. I don't like her song nearly as much though, so I don't know if it's a new song, I will say. So I usually that's the number one thing I'm looking for in a Dead or Alive character or Venus Vacation character reveals. Like, do you have a good song? I like Patty's song, and I also like Fiona's song. Those are two very good songs in that game. So, anyways, there's our little Dead or Alive Venus Vacation minute. We'll go in hibernation until another character catches my eye, and I'll be like, they gotta have these guys in the fighting games at some point. Again, I think I've said that multiple times. Like, not this podcast specifically, but like in the past, I believe we have talked about Venus Vacation. I'm just like, when are they gonna have these characters fighting games? Even though knowing better that they will not. But I think part of me is just like, they gotta commit. They gotta commit. This is your Dead or Alive world. Build the Dead or Alive world today with more characters. Time to add men to Venus Vacation. What are they doing? New Inazuma 11 screenshots came out. There's only like 4 screenshots, and they do not show much at all. But I wasn't really taken aback by just like, they look really good. Admittedly, these like in development screenshots, but I believe this might be a Switch only game. I can't remember if they've said what platforms it's going to be on, but I remember Switch being like kind of the core thing they talked about when we recently talked about them, because they're talking about like the touchscreen aspect of the game, and like they keep some of those touchscreen aspects in place with the Switch version at the very least. I think it's a Switch exclusive. I don't know for sure. But I did like I think visually the game actually looks very nice. I think it's the first we've seen of the new Inazuma 11 game on Switch, and I think this is the first time it's been on a system that's not the 3DS, so it's been really nice to see, or it's really nice to see like those characters kind of be converted over to like high quality 3D graphics. I believe there are Inazuma 11 animes though that came out, so I'm sure that, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they've used 3D models in those in the past, and this is pretty similar, but I don't know enough about that stuff. I just know the 3DS soccer game, so I just thought it looked pretty nice. They're gonna have more announcements coming later this year in 2022, so I'm interested in seeing what they say about that, if only because I'm like, level 5, are you gonna survive Inazuma 11 for the Switch level 5? If this game sells, do you have enough Yokai Watch 2 money to continue to push you through life? So, really curious to see what happens at level 5. They felt like they were on top of the world for a while, and now they're just like, I don't know what's going on with them. I would be very curious to see what happens. So, anyways, that's it though. I just wanted to end that off with two light little character appreciation stories, I guess. But you know, sometimes I think it's fun to like kind of bring up and be like, Shandy, hey guys, Shandy's here. Like, it's weird. Like, it's pronounced like it's like spelled out like Shandy. That's how Silicon Era at least spelled it out. So Shandy. So, anyways, that's the Japanese version of Venus Vacation, by the way. But that's it for this week. Thank you so much for coming. OneController.com is the website. Like I said earlier, or maybe did I say earlier? I always have to start the podcast over like 3 times at the beginning of the stream, and I always forget, or beginning of the recording, I always forget what I said, when, and where. But Nappletail will be streaming that this week. I had those issues I had earlier, but I'm just going to use S-Video, so we're going to be playing it at a lower resolution, but, you know, it's fine. We'll live. For S-Video was plenty fine for most people. So we will be doing that. And then also, I'm going to try to have some kind of video out this week. I do not think it'll be the Xenoblade video. I would be very surprised if it's the Xenoblade video, but I'll let you know. It probably will be something pretty quick to record, whether that be the pickups video or a Japanese Wii commercial video. I'm going to guess the latter there, the Japanese Wii commercial video, if I do that. So, or I will just let you know if I won't post anything this week. I think there is definitely a part of me that's like, I shouldn't like lock myself in as much. I know that YouTube's always changing. That's the plan, at least for now. Anyways, OneController.com is the website. Do you listen to this podcast through your ears only? Did you know there's a YouTube version where you can stare at my face for like 30 minutes to an hour if you really want to? You can do that. I get some graphics that I put in the background sometimes, but they're very simple. It's up to you. You can come here, join in if you want. Or if you are watching on YouTube, you're like, I don't need to see your face, Ben. I just need to listen to you. You can go to Anchor FM or any podcast service. You can search for One Controller Port. I should show up on there, but Anchor FM would be the place you can find if you are trying to figure out which podcast services, if you cannot find it on the podcast service that you use. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you again for people who join in on the Patreon. I appreciate that again, as always. So we'll have that Buddy Mission Cup video coming up next week. But yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week. Bye!